starting to stir on the outside.
Slater continues to climb. Slater going to the top of the truss here inside the Galen Center at USC.
No.
Oh, dear God.
Leon, stop.
That's well over 15 feet in the air.
If not higher, Slater is insane! Holy God!
We might as well get straight into it with Slammiversary.
Yes, sir.
You against Moose. How are you feeling?
Right now, I'm feeling excited. I think it's a combination of excitement and nerves. Like I said, right now, I'm feeling over the moon about the opportunity to challenge for the X Division Championship at Slammiversary. But I think the closer we get to it, obviously, at the time of recording, we're still a couple of weeks out. I think when it gets to me being in gear, standing behind the curtain, like when it comes to my entrance and then watching Moose come down the ramp with the X Division belt, I feel like that's when the nerves will hit me. And then when the bell rings, it goes back to excitement and I'm in my happy place, you know what I'm saying? So I'm looking forward to it, man. I really am. It's going to be special.
What are your thoughts about going up against someone like Moose, who, you know, he's been doing this since before you kind of step foot in a ring, and he's a big name and a big talent as well.
Absolutely. Like not only the name value of Moose, him being obviously the current X Division champion, he's a former Impact world champion, he's a former TNA world champion. Not only him being a big name, he is a big guy. He's like 6'5", he's 240, he's a freak athlete, he can do everything I can do and more. So it's a daunting challenge, man. It really is. But I feel like I wouldn't be in this position to challenge him if I wasn't ready for that challenge. You know what I'm saying? We have an incredible roster at TNA right now, and it's difficult to rise to the cream of the crop, and it's difficult to get an opportunity at the X Division Championship. I've only had I think this will be my third in my 18 months, right? So they don't come very often. So I'm taking it super serious, and even more serious because I'm in there against a specimen like Moose. I really think it's going to take everything that I have to walk out with the X Division Championship on July 20th. But if it takes everything I have, that's what it's going to take, and that's what I'm going to do.
When you kind of throw in the lineage of that X Division belt as well, like ex-champions like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, like big household names, does that add any pressure?
Yeah, it does. It does. But I feel like that pressure only comes after I win the belt. You know what I'm saying? The challenge in front of me right now is to just get it around my waist or get it around my shoulder and overcome Moose. And then when that happens, I'm gonna say when, not if, because it will happen. It will happen. When that happens, I think that's when the pressure of the lineage of the belt comes into play, because that's when the X Division is now on my shoulders, and I have to look after the legacy that they've created. The people like Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels, all the TNA OGs, like AJ, Joe, just like you mentioned. I think the legacy that they've created is a legacy so special that the X Division stands out in the history of wrestling as something that everyone remembers. It's such an iconic belt, it's such an iconic division, and the fact that there's a possibility that that legacy and that division rests on my shoulders after July 20th, yes, it does come with a lot of pressure, but I think pressure is where I thrive best, for sure.
And if/when you win, that belt is kind of like what the Intercontinental Championship is to WWE. It's a launch pad often to, you know, World Heavyweight Championship. So is that a step you are thinking about, or
1000%, man, 1000%. I'm doing everything in my everything in my power, day by day, to make sure I'm ready for that opportunity when it comes. Like, even as a more recent example, someone that during his time at TNA was a real mentor to me is Josh Alexander. That's the path that he took, right? Obviously, he had the stuff with the North and Ethan Page when he debuted. Then he moved on to winning the X Division Championship, and from there he was moving on to that World Championship, and that's exactly the path that I'm trying to take. I said it in promos, but I really do mean it when I say it. Like, I'm in wrestling to try and live forever. I want my legacy, my body of work to be remembered long past I'm done and long past when I'm gone. And I think the more accolades, like the X Division Championship and even more so the TNA World Championship, are gonna add to that legacy. If I can be the youngest to do that, that's another cherry on top. So the World Championship is most definitely in my sights.
I think a lot has been made of your age. which, you know, you're 20. It kind of comes up in every interview, every promo, almost just how young you are. But I don't think a lot of people know you've had more than 300 matches throughout your career.
Yes.
So what's kind of the difference between you now and like you in 2019 that was just starting out on the British indie scene?
I think the difference of me now is that I'm a young adult, you know what I'm saying? I'm in a bit of a weird position where um yes, I've been wrestling for I don't even know how many years now. I guess it's 11. Like I started training when I was 9, which is crazy, right? But I'm in a position where I'm 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 discovering myself as a person at the same time I'm trying to discover myself in wrestling. You know what I'm saying? And my journey to discover who I am as a human being is being broadcast on national TV, and I'm being put on these huge pay-per-views with thousands and thousands of people. And people are getting to see my journey in real time. You know what I'm saying? So I think the difference between 2019 Leon and 2025 Leon is a whole bunch of maturity. You know what I'm saying? 2019 Leon was a pre-COVID Leon. He was still in school, he was still doing homework. And 2025 Leon, 20 is still young, but it's a lot older than 16. You know what I'm saying? So I've had a lot more experience, not only in wrestling but just in life in general. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I think that has only aided me in professional wrestling, and being able to grow up and mature around the people that I've been blessed enough to grow up around has been another huge blessing. So I really feel like I've got a pretty strong head on my shoulders for where I'm at right now. And I feel like that's only grown over time.
What about style wise? Because I saw you in Manchester a couple of years ago. I think it was like an 8-man Lucha Rules, one of those mad progress tag
Oh,
team.
I
Like,
know exactly which one you're on about. Yeah. I know
yeah,
exactly
that
which one you're
one.
on about. Mhm.
Like, I mean, that was just all chaos.
Yeah.
So, like, how's your style kind of evolved over the years from that kind of stuff?
So I think naturally, like as a younger wrestler, you almost have to become a bit of a high flyer, and especially if you are athletically gifted, I suppose we'll call it. Like I've been lucky enough to be. You automatically kind of follow into that style as a younger wrestler because you're a smaller stature. You don't have as much muscle to you. And that's kind of the path you naturally take, right? So, of course, that's still my base, that's still my roots, that's still what I do. I'm still a high flyer. But as I've matured, not only mentally, but physically as well, and don't get me wrong, I'm not Bobby Lashley, I'm not Moose, I'm not Chris Masters, but I've definitely put on some size since I was, 15, 16, or even like a couple of years ago, since like 2022, 23. You know what I'm saying? I've been working hard every day in the gym, I've been trying to eat right. So I think as my body matures, I think my style also matures, where I don't really need to do as many flips right now. The only flips I really do are the corner dive and the 450. You know what I'm saying? So I think as my body's matured, I've tried to incorporate more strikes, more power moves, and just become more of a well-rounded wrestler in general.
Yeah. You mentioned the kind of corner dive. You came in for a bit of stick recently for, I think it was the Ultimate X match, and there was a move that you did that came in for a bit of stick. So, how did you view all that went on around that, and like, what did you learn from it?
So to be completely honest about it, I don't want to say I was disappointed because, as they say, like all attention is good attention. People mentioning my name brings people to my profile, brings people to TNA, which is only a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But kind of like I was saying, I want these moments to live forever, right? And I was hoping that the reaction would be more on the crazy feat of daredevilism, I suppose we'll call it. And I wanted the focus to be on me jumping off of the thing rather than people maybe not catching me and me kind of falling to the ground or whatever. And I feel like that's kind of what the discourse fell onto more. So I don't want to say I was disappointed. I was a little bit taken aback by it because my goal going into it was to have the maneuver itself be talked about. But again, going back to my first point, any attention is good attention, right? And especially attention of that level, where it was talked about for days and days on wrestling social media. It was the clip being shared around. It was shared on ESPN, which obviously does wonders for me and TNA as a brand when we're trying to branch out and get onto these bigger platforms. So all in all, I think it was a positive. I was a little bit bummed that it wasn't all about me, but we'll get over it, right? And I think I said it earlier. I truly feel like that's gonna live in the TNA history logs as something that goes alongside the Elix skip a runner off the cage and the Jeff Hardy swanton over the stage. You know what I'm saying? My goal going into that was to make my own version of that, and I think I accomplished that for sure.
Fair enough. Good answer. Want to also talk about you being from Bradford. Bradford doesn't have like a massive wrestling lineage. So
No.
how did you kind of get into it, and what's it like being essentially the biggest wrestler to ever come out of Bradford?
Which is a crazy sentence, right? Which is a crazy sentence. I think what got me into wrestling was my cousin. So he was a big wrestling fan growing up. And as most people do, apart from obviously me and yourself, he grew out of it. You know what I'm saying? When he got to that age of like 12, 13, 14, he started to grow out of it. And because of that, I got all his hand-me-downs, and that was the DVDs, it was the action figures, it was the video games. And that's where I fell in love. And this is me at a super, super young age. So there's never been a point in my life where I really haven't wanted to be a wrestler, you know what I mean? And that's thanks to my cousin. And it's funny you talk about the Bradford lineage, actually, because I did some research in this because my family had mentioned some similar points. And there was a wrestler in World of Sport called Les Kellett, who was from Bradford. And I've watched some of his stuff, and he was like one of the early originators of comedy wrestling. So shout out to Les Kellett and his whole family. Shout out to Bradford. But most importantly, shout out to my cousin.
Fair enough. So kind of tell me how you developed over the years into wanting to take this on as a career, really.
So for me, I've always had it instilled in me that you can make the world what you want it to be. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what scale that's on. For example, like my mum, ever since I've been alive, obviously she's had other jobs in the past, but my whole lifetime, she's owned her own business. She's had a dog grooming business. And arguably that's on a smaller scale than what kind of TNA is on and what wrestling's on. But she had a passion and she made it her reality. You know, always been instilled in me since day one. So as soon as I discovered my passion and I knew it was my true passion, it wasn't just a phase, it wasn't just a fad, I knew that wrestling was what I wanted to do. And kind of like I said before, it's the only thing I've ever really remembered wanting to do. And even like throughout school, everyone knew that like whether Joe Smith wanted to be a bricklayer or Jack wanted to be an electrician, Leon Slater always wanted to be a wrestler. And that's from preschool to secondary school. Everybody knew this, right? So to be from Bradford, to be 20 years old, and to say that my passion is my job is not only rare, but it's something I take great pride in, and I'm very, very proud of it.
So with that in mind, tell me about the moment TNA called you and was like, "We want you to come work for us."
So this is it's a funny series of events. It kind of happened over a couple months. So the journey of it started in February 2023. I want to say it was February 4th, if I can get that day exact. I wrestled an independent show in Manchester, and it just so happened that the Impact World Champion at the time, Josh Alexander, was on this show. And Josh took the time out to watch my match and give me feedback, and ever since then we stayed in contact, which of course he didn't have to do, and I still appreciate massively to this day. A couple months go by and Impact announced a UK tour where they have 4 dates. I think it was Glasgow, Edinburgh. It was Glasgow. It was Glasgow, there was Newcastle, and then there was 2 days in Coventry. And eventually Josh hits me up and he asked me, hey, can you do the Glasgow day? And obviously at this point, wrestling for TNA is mind-blowing, and it still is to this day, right? But getting the message from Josh, who was the world champion at the time, asking to come wrestle for TNA for that one day was incredible, and I lost my mind. And I said, of course, yes. 1,000 times, yes. Oh my God, like, this is getting better and better and better. But weeks go by and he goes, hey, they want you days, which is absolutely insane. So I already kind of had an inkling that they were interested in me. I was the only UK talent with all 4 days, if I'm correct. And it got to the point where we're on the 3rd day in Coventry. I just wrestled Frankie Kazarian for the 2nd time on that tour, which obviously, like, getting to wrestle for TNA against a TNA OG like Frankie is mind-blowing stuff. And I remember that Alex Shelley had injured his calf, I think, on the first day. So they were having to announce that Frankie would take his place in the main event, with Chris Sabin. So Scott Demore, who was the president at the time, comes out. And I knew he was going to come out because he was going to announce the Frankie tag match. But as he walks down the ramp, I see in his back pocket and I go, yo, he's got a piece of paper in his back pocket, man. He's got a piece of paper and a pen in his back pocket. So my heart's already starting to race. My heart's already racing from wrestling Frankie Kazarian in Coventry in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. Then my heart starts racing even faster because Scott Demore's coming out, the president of the company that I'm trying to work for. Then it starts beating out my chest because I see bro with a piece of paper and a pen in his back pocket. Then he gets into the ring, cuts the promo, he announces Frankie, and then he turns to me and he goes, "In a new era of TNA, we need some new talent." And he turns to me and he goes, "Leon," and I go, bro, I lose it. I get so excited even talking about it right now. Like, yeah, the energy in that room was crazy, man. And that Coventry venue was a venue I'd wrestled in a couple times before, so like the fans there knew me, and obviously it's a British wrestling crowd, so anyone that was aware of the independence kind of was aware of what I was about. And that feeling is never going to be replicated again, man. It was truly special.
Yeah, and I guess it could kind of, just bringing it back to Slammiversary, all culminate in you potentially walking out with the X Division title. So when you look at that whole journey, what do you make of it?
That's the way you articulate that question was real nice, man. Like I've never really thought about it like that. Like from that point in October 2023 to this point in July 2025, it's been a hell of a journey. It's been I guess closing up on 2 years now of living the dream. Like I said, my only goal in life was to be a wrestler in whatever format that took. And obviously the most obvious path for that was to be a wrestler on TV, obviously growing up watching TNA, watching WWE. So to be in a nationally televised American TV wrestling company, challenging for one of their flagship belts at one of their biggest shows of the year is absolutely insane. And to go from this point to rewind back to 2023, I think if you would have told me then, feel like I've always been pretty confident, and I feel like I've always kind of had a little gift for manifesting. So maybe I would have believed you, but there's no way I would have pictured it happening. It's how it's happened. It's been an incredibly special journey, and I think although we're nearly 2 years deep into this special journey, Slammiversary is another like new beginning and another new chapter in this journey when I take home the X Division belt.
Nice. So last couple of questions. Obviously, TNA Slammiversary always has some surprises. So who would you like to see surprise the fans and turn up at Slammiversary?
So the biggest one for me personally, and I think the biggest one for any TNA fan would be AJ Styles, right? He is the guy that put this company on his back. He's the guy that we're all trying to replicate. We're all trying to be the AJ Styles of this new TNA, myself especially. I think that would be monumental. And of course, we've seen a lot of crossover with ourselves and WWE, but we've only really seen it with the NXT roster. We've yet to dip into, I suppose, the main roster talent. And if there's any main roster talent that I would want to see cross the line, it would most definitely be the Phenomenal One.
And if you could bring in any one British talent that you've either performed with, teamed with, or would love to face, who would it be?
Ooh, that's okay. So I'm gonna give you an interesting answer. I would pick Kid Like Us 2. Reason being because me and Kid Like Us 2 started training at the same training facility. I think he's a couple years older than me, so he must have been 12 or 11 and I was 9. So I've known Like Us for over 10 years now. He's probably the person I've known longest in wrestling. So getting the chance to mix it up with him at kind of my new home on a big platform like that would be incredibly special for us both.
Yeah. I was going to say, he just won the Progress Tag Team titles at the weekend. So
he did. I'm very proud of him.
Like us, Jim versus you and Darius, in a TNA ring would be amazing.
It would be incredible. Yes, sir. Yes, it would.
And on that note, what's the last question? So what's the one thing that you want people to get from your match at Slammiversary? Like, what do you want them to get about you?
I want them to feel like I'm the next guy. You know what I'm saying? I think we spoke about it before where the X Division Championship is kind of a launching pad for further success in TNA. And I think with me having the possibility to be the youngest ever to do it, in combination with OC winning the flagship back, being the X Division championship, great opportunity for me to kind of prove my mission statement of trying to be the guy in TNA, you know what I'm saying? And we've got an incredibly talented locker room, like I've said before. Mike Santana's calling himself the standard, and don't get me wrong, he absolutely is. He is the man. Joe Hendry is the absolute man. Frankie Kazarian is the man. And I'm trying to be on that top tier with these guys, you know what I'm saying? And I think July 20th, I think Slammiversary is a great first step in cementing myself as a top guy in TNA for sure.